The Restoration of the Quilt, a story of healing and self-love. The evening arrives with a particular quiet that only comes with the first real snowfall of winter. You can feel it before you see it, a thickness in the air, a muffling of the world's usual sounds, as if someone has drawn a heavy curtain between you and everything beyond the windows. When you finally glance outside, the flakes are already falling in that slow, determined way that promises accumulation. They drift past the glass in no particular hurry, catching the last pale light of dusk, and you know without checking a forecast that this will continue for hours. The world is being tucked in for the night. You move through the house, turning on just a few lamps, leaving most of the rooms in comfortable shadow. Tonight doesn't call for brightness. Tonight calls for something softer, something that won't intrude on the particular quality of peace that's settling over everything. In the living room, you kneel before the fireplace and begin the small ritual of building a fire. You've done this enough times that your hands know the work without much thought. Crumpled newspaper first, then kindling arranged in a loose lattice, then 2 split logs positioned just so. The match flares sulphurous and bright, and you touch it to the paper in several spots, watching as the flame takes hold and begins to climb. For a few minutes, you simply sit back on your heels and watch. There's something hypnotic about a fire in its infancy, the way it tests and explores, the way it finds what will burn and what won't. The kindling catches with small pops and cracks, and soon the larger logs begin to surrender their edges to the heat. The room fills gradually with warmth, and the particular scent of burning oak, sweet and clean and ancient somehow, like something remembering itself. When you're satisfied that the fire has established itself, you rise and cross to the old cedar chest that sits beneath the window. The chest itself is an heirloom, though from which branch of the family tree you can never quite remember. Its corners are dovetailed by hand, and the wood has darkened over decades to a deep honey color. When you lift the lid, the smell of cedar rises up, that sharp, protective scent that keeps moths and time at bay, at least for a while. Inside, folded with care, the last time you put it away, is the quilt. You lift it out slowly, feeling its weight even before it's fully in your arms. 50 years old, perhaps older, the exact date of its making has been lost to family lore, buried somewhere in the memories of people who are no longer here to ask. What remains is the quilt itself, this tangible thing made of scraps and skill and countless hours of someone's attention. You carry it to the rocking chair positioned near the fire, and as you settle into the worn seat, you unfold the quilt across your lap. The rocking chair protests with a familiar creak. You've sat in this chair 1,000 times, and it knows the shape of you just as you know its particular way of moving. Not a smooth glide, but a slightly hitching rhythm that is somehow more comforting for its imperfection. With the quilt spread across your legs, you can feel its weight settling, grounding you. Even damaged, even worn, it's substantial. Heavy in the way that good blankets used to be, before everything became lightweight and synthetic. You've gathered your supplies on the small table beside the chair, a wooden needle case that belonged to your grandmother's, several spools of thread in various shades, a pair of steel scissors with worn handles, and a silver thimble that has become smooth from decades of use. Everything is within easy reach, arranged with the kind of care that signals intention. This evening has been set aside. This is time you're giving to the work and to yourself. Now, in the firelight, you begin your assessment. Your hands move slowly over the quilt's surface, reading it like braille, finding the places where it needs attention. Here, along the binding on one edge, the fabric has frayed to loose threads. There, in the upper left quadrant, a seam has separated, leaving a gap where the batting shows through like exposed bone. A corner square has torn, and near the center, several patches have worn thin enough that you can see the shadow of your hand through them when you hold them up to the firelight. It's more damage than you remembered. For a moment you feel something like discouragement. Is this too far gone? Would it be easier to simply fold it back into the cedar chest and leave it there, preserved in its decline? But even as the thought forms, you dismiss it. Some things are worth saving. Some things ask for your patience and your effort, not because the work will be easy, but because they matter. This quilt has kept people warm. It has covered sleeping children and sick grandparents. It has been dragged to picnics and spread over beds and folded at the foot of couches for unexpected naps. It has done its job faithfully for longer than you've been alive. The holes don't make it worthless. They make it honest. You pick up the needle case and open it, selecting a medium-sized needle. Not so fine that it will bend, not so thick that it will leave obvious holes. Threading a needle by firelight is its own small challenge, and you find yourself squinting, moving the needle closer and then farther from your eyes, trying to find the distance where the eye becomes visible. The thread is a soft cotton in a shade of cream that doesn't quite match the binding you'll be repairing, but it's close enough. Perfect matches are rarely possible when you're mending old things. The goal isn't to hide the repair, but to make it strong. When the thread finally slips through the eye, always a small victory. You pull it through until you have equal lengths on either side, then tie a simple knot at the end. The thread has a slightly waxy coating that helps it glide through fabric, and when you test it between your fingers, it feels smooth and capable. You drape the quilt more carefully across your lap now, positioning the frayed corner where you can reach it comfortably, and you press the thimble onto your middle finger. It fits snugly, the metal already taking on the warmth of your skin. You take a breath. Outside, the snow continues its quiet work. Inside, the fire settles into a steady burn, radiating heat that you can feel most strongly on your shins and ankles. The room has achieved a perfect temperature warm without being stifling, the kind of warmth that makes you grateful for shelter, for walls and roofs, and the simple miracle of staying dry and comfortable while winter does what it will outside. And then you begin. The needle pierces the fabric at the edge of the frayed binding, pushed by the thimble, and you feel that small resistance followed by the give as it breaks through. There's a tiny sound, almost a whisper, as the needle moves through the layers. You pull the thread through until the knot catches on the underside, anchoring everything, and then you push the needle back up a few millimeters away, in and out, in and out. The basic rhythm of mending, the fundamental motion that has repaired cloth for as long as humans have worn it. The first few stitches are tentative, feeling out the work. Your hands need to remember this, even though they've done it before. There's a particular tension required, not so tight that the fabric puckers, not so loose that the stitches serve no purpose. You adjust as you go, and by the fifth or sixth stitch, the rhythm has found you. Your shoulders drop slightly. Your breathing slows to match the pace of the needle. In and out. In and out. It's harder to start than to continue. That's true of almost everything you think. How many times have you put off beginning something, intimidated by the scope of it, only to find that once you're in the work, it carries you along. The first stitch is an act of faith. It's saying, this is worth doing. I am worth the time this takes. The quilt is worth saving, and so am I, because that's what this is really, isn't it? It would be easy to say you're simply repairing an old blanket, preserving a family artifact, being practical and thrifty. And those things are true. But there's something else happening here in this warm room with the snow falling outside. You're proving to yourself that broken things can be made whole, that time and use and wear don't mean the end, that patient attention can restore. The binding takes longer than you expected, but you don't mind. Each stitch is small and neat, marching along the edge in a tidy row. The thimble makes its soft metallic tap each time you push the needle through a thicker section, a sound like a tiny heartbeat, steady and reassuring. When you reach the corner and need to turn, you pause to reposition the quilt, feeling its weight shift in your lap. The fabric rustles a dry, papery sound that speaks of age and dryness, and the way cotton becomes almost fragile when enough years have passed. You run your hand over the surface of the quilt, feeling the texture of it. This isn't one of those precisely planned quilts where every square is uniform, where colors progress in careful gradients. This is a scrap quilt, made from whatever was available, and the result is a kind of beautiful chaos. Here is a square of pale blue cotton, printed with tiny white flowers. You remember being told this came from a dress someone wore to church in the early 1960s. Next to it is a square of dark denim, sturdy and plain, probably from work pants that wore out everywhere except this one salvageable section. There's a piece of red flannel, soft and faded, now to the color of old brick, a section of yellow gingham, a square of green corduroy with the nap worn flat. Each piece is a memory, though most of the specific memories are lost now. You don't know who wore the flowered dress or the denim pants. You don't know what occasion inspired the red flannel, or whether the gingham came from curtains or clothing. But you can imagine. You can picture hands cutting these squares, making decisions about what to include, what to save from garments that had given all they could give in their original forms. Someone saw potential in these scraps. Someone thought, this can be useful again in a different way. Isn't that what we do with ourselves too? We take the experiences we've had, even the ones that didn't work out the way we planned, even the ones that left us frayed and worn, and we find ways to incorporate them into the people we're becoming. We don't discard the difficult parts. We cut them down to size and stitch them in alongside the good parts, and somehow the combination becomes stronger than any uniform expanse of perfect fabric could ever be. Your needle moves to a different section now, following a seam that's begun to separate. This requires more concentration because you need to match the original seam line, to stitch where stitches once were. The old thread is broken down, turned brittle and weak, and left gaps where the fabric is pulled apart. You can see where the original quilter worked, can see the tiny holes where her needle pierced the cloth. You try to honor that path, to follow in those footsteps as closely as you can. The seam is long, running a good 8 inches between two squares, and as you work your way along it, you find yourself settling even deeper into the rhythm. The rocking chair creaks. The fire pops. Outside, the snow accumulates on the windowsill, building a soft white ridge that glows faintly in the darkness. Your world has contracted to this. The golden circle of firelight, the weight of the quilt, the needle flashing as it catches the light on each pass through the fabric. There's a meditation in repetition. When you do the same motion over and over, when you give yourself fully to a simple task, something in your mind relaxes. The constant chatter quiets. The worries about tomorrow, the regrets about yesterday, they don't disappear entirely, but they fade into the background. What comes forward is the immediacy of this, the slight resistance of the fabric, the whisper of thread being pulled through, the warmth on your face from the fire, the softness of the quilt against your palms. This is a kind of prayer, you think? Not the words spoken to the ceiling kind, but the older kind, the kind that's embedded in action, the kind that says, I am here, I am paying attention, I am tending to what needs tending. When you repair this quilt, you're participating in something that stretches back through time. How many people have sat as you're sitting now, needle in hand, working to preserve something precious? How many will come after? You finish the long seam and tie off the thread, snipping it close to the knot with the scissors. The snip is crisp and satisfying, a punctuation mark. This repair is done. You run your finger along it, testing the strength, and it holds. The gap has been closed. What was separated is joined again. But now you encounter something more challenging, a section where the damage is too extensive for simple restitching. Here, near what would be the hip area, if the quilt were draped over someone lying down, there's a hole about the size of a silver dollar. The fabric hasn't just torn. It's worn away entirely, disintegrated by years of friction and washing and use. This can't be stitched closed. This needs a patch. You set the quilt aside for a moment and reach for the bag of fabric, scraps you keep in the chest remnants from other projects, pieces too useful to throw away, but too small to be anything on their own. You sort through them, looking for something that will suit. Not an exact match, because that's impossible, and anyway, not really the point. You're looking for something that will be compatible in weight and texture, something that will blend with the quilt's eclectic nature. Your fingers find a piece of soft denim, faded from dark blue to a dusty slate color. It's sturdy but not stiff, worn to perfect softness. This will do. You shake it out and smooth it on your lap, then position the scissors and cut. The scissors are sharp and old, and they slice through the denim with that distinctive sound, a whisper and a crunch at once, the sound of fiber being severed. You cut a square slightly larger than the hole, leaving margin for the seam allowance. Now comes the careful work of positioning. You lay the patch over the hole, adjusting it until it sits square with the other patches around it. You pin it in place with 3 straight pins from your grandmother's pin cushion, small silver pins with colorful round heads. The pins hold the patch steady, and you thread your needle with fresh thread, this time choosing a medium blue that will show less against the denim. The first stitch attaches the patch to the quilt, piercing through all the layers, the new denim, the old fabric surrounding the hole, and the batting underneath. There's more resistance now, more thickness to penetrate, and you're glad for the thimble. It takes real pressure to push the needle through, and you feel the thimble take the force of it, distributing the pressure so your finger doesn't bear the brunt. Tap the thimble against the needle. Push. The needle breaks through. Pull. The thread follows. You work your way around the edge of the patch, making small, even stitches that will hold it firmly in place. This is slower work than the simple seam repair. This requires patience and precision, but there's satisfaction in it, too. You're not just preserving what was, you're adding something new. You're making a choice about what this quilt will carry forward. The denim patch will be visible, obviously a repair, and that's as it should be. The quilt's history should show. The fact that it's been tended to, cared for, deemed worth saving, that should be apparent. Isn't that true for us too? The things we've been through, the ways we've had to patch ourselves together, those aren't shameful secrets to hide. They're proof. Proof that we did the work. Proof that we showed up for ourselves. Proof that we believed we were worth the effort of repair. The holes in our lives, the places where we've worn through, the times when we've come apart at the seams, these don't make us less valuable. They make us real. They make us human. And when we take the time to repair those places, when we're gentle with ourselves, when we carefully choose the right patch and stitch it in place with attention and care, we become something more than we were, not perfect, but reinforced. Not unmarked, but unbroken. You finish attaching the patch and remove the pins, returning them to the cushion. You turn the quilt over to check your work from the back, and you're pleased to see that the stitches are neat and even barely visible from this side. The patch is secure. It will hold. This section of the quilt, which was at risk of further deterioration, is now stable again. It can be used. It can continue to serve. The fire has burned down to glowing coals, so you take a moment to add another log. The bark is rough under your fingers, and the log settles into place with a shower of sparks that climb toward the chimney like tiny orange stars. Within minutes, the new wood begins to catch, and fresh flames lick along its length. The renewed heat pushes out into the room, and you return to your chair feeling that pleasant flush of warmth on your cheeks and forehead. You reposition the quilt, pulling a different section into your lap, and as you do, you feel something odd. There's a lump in the batting, something that doesn't belong. You run your fingers over it, trying to identify it by touch. It's about the size of a walnut, oddly shaped, definitely not just bunched up cotton batting. Curious now, you examine the backing fabric and find a section where the stitches have loosened over time, creating a small gap. You work your fingers into the gap carefully, widening it just enough to reach inside. Your fingers close around the foreign object, and you pull it out into the light. For a moment, you simply stare at it. Then you laugh a surprised bark of laughter that echoes in the quiet room and startles you with its own volume. It's a sock, or rather a piece of a sock. Specifically, it has a section of the most aggressively hideous 1970s polyester sock you've ever seen. Orange and brown stripes in a pattern that seems designed to induce vertigo, with a texture that's somehow both slippery and rough at the same time. Someone, decades ago, when this quilt developed a thin spot or a small tear, grabbed the nearest thing at hand and stuffed it into the batting as emergency reinforcement. And that nearest thing happened to be this spectacular specimen of period fashion disaster. You hold it up to the firelight, marveling at it. The polyester has survived remarkably well, looking almost as garish now as it must have in whatever year it was first worn. You try to imagine the scenario, someone noticing the quilt was damaged, not having proper materials for repair, looking around the room and thinking, well, I've got this sock that lost its mate, and just shoving it in there. A pragmatic, absurd, perfect solution. It's the kind of thing that shouldn't be funny, but absolutely is. It's human in the most endearing way, not precious or formal or correct, but just someone doing their best with what they had. Someone caring enough to try to fix the problem, even if the solution was unconventional. even if the solution was objectively ridiculous. You think about your own life, the ways you've held yourself together with whatever was at hand when you didn't have the perfect materials for repair. The times you've been sad and eaten ice cream for dinner because you couldn't think of anything else that might help. The times you've been anxious and watched stupid comedies until 3 a.m. because laughter, even forced, was better than spiraling. The times you've been lonely and called someone, anyone, just to hear another voice, even if it was a wrong number. We all have our emergency sock patches. We all have the ridiculous, imperfect ways we've survived difficult moments. And maybe that's not just okay, maybe that's beautiful. Maybe resourcefulness doesn't have to be elegant. Maybe survival gets to look however it looks, and we get to keep those memories inside us, hidden in our layers, making us smile when we remember them. You consider removing the sock piece, replacing it with something more appropriate, but then you decide against it. This is part of the quilt story now, a secret it's been keeping for probably 30 or 40 years. Who are you to erase that? Instead, you carefully tuck the sock piece back into the batting, then stitch the backing closed again with small, careful stitches. The secret is preserved. The absurdity is honored. When you're finished, you pat the spot gently, as if tucking someone in. Your secret's safe. You murmur to the quilt, and you're smiling as you move on to the next section that needs attention. That next section happens to be the center of the quilt, and as you pull it into your lap, you realize this will require the most careful work of the evening. The center square is the focal point of the whole design, a large piece of cream-colored cotton, printed with tiny red flowers, surrounded by a border of solid red fabric. But it's also the section that's the most worn because it's the section that's seen the most use. When the quilt was spread on a bed, the center would have been right where someone's body rested. When it was wrapped around someone sitting in a chair, the center would have been where hands clutched it close. This is the part that's been touched most, washed most, loved most. The fabric is thin here, almost translucent. You can see the shadows of your fingers through it when you hold your hand underneath. The seams that attach this center square to its border are frayed and weak, several of them separated entirely. The batting underneath has been compressed flat by years of weight and warmth, no longer fluffy, but dense as felt. You cannot replace this square. It's too central to the quilt's identity, too much a part of what makes this quilt. But you can reinforce it. You can give it the support it needs to continue to hold. You thread your needle with cream thread, the closest match you have, and you begin to work around the border of the center square, reattaching it to the red frame. These stitches need to be small and close together, each one placed carefully to maximize strength without puckering the thin fabric. You work slowly, taking your time. There's no rushing this. The center square deserves your full attention, your best effort. The thimble taps steadily as you work. Tap, push, pull. Tap, push, pull. The needle flashes in the firelight, catching gold and red and orange in its arc. Your fingers develop a slight ache from the precise, repetitive motion, but it's not unpleasant. It's the ache of work, of purpose, of doing something that matters. As you stitch, you think about your own center, your own core self. That part of you that's most essential, most true, and also most vulnerable, because it's what you show to the world every day. It's what bears the weight of your life, your relationships, your responsibilities. Of course, it gets worn down. Of course, it grows thin in places. That's not a flaw in the design. That's the proof that you're living fully, that you're showing up, that you're not holding yourself in reserve for some hypothetical future moment when it will be safe to be real. But just like this center square, your core self needs reinforcement. It needs tending. You can't just keep taking from that well without ever filling it back up. You can't just keep expecting your center to hold without ever giving it support. Self-care isn't selfish, it's structural. It's necessary maintenance. It's what allows you to continue to do all the things you need and want to do. And this quiet evening, with needle and thread, with fire and snow and the weight of something old and precious in your lap, this is maintenance. This is you saying to yourself, you are the center square. You are worn from use because you've been useful, because you've done the work of living, and you deserve to be reinforced, to be stitched up, to be made strong again. When you finish securing the center square, you sit back and examine your work. The stitches are tiny and even barely visible against the pattern of red flowers. The square is secure now, anchored firmly to its border. It's still thin, still shows its age, but it's supported. It will hold. You check on the fire again, stirring the coals with the poker and adding another small log. The room has grown fully dark now except for the firelight, and outside the snow is visible only as a soft glow against the blackness, the white flakes catching what little light escapes the windows. The world has narrowed to this warm room, this chair, this quilt. Everything else feels distant and unimportant. There is one more major repair to make. A long seam along the left edge where two large sections of the quilt have pulled apart. This is the kind of damage that happens gradually, stitches breaking one by one over years, until suddenly there's a gap 6 or 8 inches long. You've been putting this off because you know it will take time and patience, but there's no avoiding it now. This is what you came here to do. You reposition the quilt, folding it and arranging it so the separated seam is accessible. The quilt is heavy, and maneuvering it requires effort. It rustles and shifts, the batting making soft, crunching sounds as it settles into new configurations. When you finally have it positioned correctly, you take a moment to rest, flexing your fingers and rolling your shoulders. Then you thread the needle with fresh thread and begin the long work of rejoining what has come apart. This seam requires you to match the original stitch line, to find the holes left by the previous thread and follow that path as closely as possible. It's exacting work, demanding focus. You have to look closely at each stitch, making sure the needle goes in the right place, that the tension is right, that the two pieces of fabric are aligned properly before you pull the stitch tight. There's no autopilot here. Each stitch is its own small decision, its own small act of attention. The work goes slowly, but you don't mind. In fact, you're grateful for it. How often do you get to do something that requires this kind of sustained, gentle focus? Most of your life is about efficiency, about multitasking, about getting things done as quickly as possible so you can move on to the next thing. But here now, speed is counterproductive. Speed would mean sloppy stitches, weak repairs, work that won't last. Here, slow is right. Here, taking your time is the whole point. As you work your way along the seam, you have to pause periodically to reposition the quilt. Each time you do, you feel its weight in your arms, its bulk in your lap. It's like holding something alive warm from the fire, from your body, heavy with all the nights it's covered. all the people it's kept comfortable. You think about all the repositioning that has happened over this quilt's lifetime. Someone pulling it higher on a cold night, someone folding it back on a warm afternoon, someone wrapping a child in it, someone spreading it on grass for a picnic. Countless small adjustments, countless moments of interaction between object and human. And each time the quilt was there, ready to serve whatever purpose was needed. It didn't resist being folded or unfolded, didn't complain about being washed or worn. It just was a reliable presence, a source of comfort and warmth, doing its job without fanfare or fuss. What would it be like to move through the world that way? To be present and useful without needing constant recognition? To serve your purpose, whatever you understand that purpose to be, with quiet consistency, not performing, not proving, just being. Maybe that's another lesson the quilt has to teach. Maybe there's wisdom in being a steady presence rather than a spectacular one. Maybe there's value in the reliable, the consistent, the quietly faithful. Your fingers are definitely tired now, and you pause to warm your hands by the fire, holding them out to the heat and flexing them slowly. The fire's warmth seeps into your joints, easing the stiffness. Outside, the snow continues to fall. You've lost track of time. You have no idea if it's 9 o'clock or midnight or somewhere in between. It doesn't matter. The only schedule tonight is the rhythm of your needle, the progress of your repairs. When your hands feel ready, you return to the work. The seam is more than half done now, and you can see the end of it. The separated sections are gradually being reunited, the gap closing stitch by stitch. It's satisfying to watch the progress, to see tangible evidence that your effort is making a difference. You think about how healing works, not just for quilts, but for people. It happens the same way, slowly, one small repair at a time, with patience and attention. You don't wake up one day magically whole after experiencing loss or grief or trauma. You stitch yourself back together bit by bit. Some days you make good progress. Some days you have to redo work that didn't hold. Some days you just maintain the stitches you've already made, not adding anything new, but keeping what exists from unraveling further. And that's okay. That's how it works. Healing isn't a straight line, and it isn't fast, and it definitely isn't tidy. But it is possible. If you keep showing up, keep picking up the needle, keep making the small stitches, eventually, you look down and realize you've closed a gap. You've rejoined what was separated. You're whole in a new way, not the same as before, but maybe stronger for having done the work of repair. Finally, after what feels like both forever and no time at all, you make the last stitch in the long seam. You tie off the thread, pulling the knot tight against the fabric, and snip it close with the scissors. That crisp snip, the sound of completion. You run your hand along the full length of the seam, testing it gently, and it holds firm. The two sections are united again. The gap is closed. You sit back in the chair and take a long, slow breath. The work isn't completely finished. There are still a few small frayed spots you could address, a few loose threads you could trim, but the major repairs are done. The quilt has been stabilized. It's been given what it needed. Now you hold it up to the firelight, letting it unfold, examining the evening's work. The patches and repairs are visible, but they don't look like damage. They look like care. They look like someone thought this was worth saving. The new stitches are brighter than the old ones, the patches slightly different in color and texture from their surroundings, and none of that detracts from the quilt's beauty. If anything, it adds to it. This is a quilt with a history, a quilt that's been used and loved and tended to. This is a quilt that's lived. You spend a few minutes doing the final touches, trimming loose threads with the scissors, each snip decisive and clean, pressing your fingers along the repaired seams to make sure everything is smooth, checking one last time that all your knots are secure. It's fussy work, but satisfying. You're finishing what you started, attending to the details, making sure this repair job is thorough. When you're satisfied, you fold the scissors and needle back into their case, wing the extra thread back onto its spool, and tuck the thimble into its small velvet pouch. The tools are put away, the work is done. The fire has burned down again. The logs collapsed into a bed of glowing coals that pulse with heat. You bank them carefully, arranging them so they'll burn slowly through the rest of the night, providing gentle warmth without flames. The room is very warm now, almost drowsy with it, and beyond the windows the snow has piled up on the sill 3 inches, maybe 4. You return to the rocking chair and gather the quilt around yourself, pulling it up over your shoulders and lap, cocooning yourself in its weight and warmth. It feels different, now heavier, somehow, though that's impossible. You haven't added any real weight, but it feels more substantial, more solid. Maybe it's just that you know it's been tended to, reinforced, made strong again. Maybe that knowledge alone makes it feel more secure. The chair rocks gently, creaking its familiar rhythm. The quilt holds the warmth from the fire, from your body, radiating it back to you. You can feel it on your shoulders, your arms, your legs, a full body embrace. The weight of it is comforting, like being held. Like being told you're safe, you're warm, you're exactly where you need to be. Outside, the snow continues to accumulate quietly, building depth without drama, transforming the landscape one flake at a time. Inside, the fire glows steady and low. And here, wrapped in the mended quilt, you feel something settle in your chest, something that's been tight for longer than you realized. The work is done. Not perfectly, there are still thin spots, still visible repairs, still signs of age and wear, but the quilt is whole. It's functional. It can still do its job of providing warmth and comfort. It has been deemed worth saving, worth the hours of careful attention, worth the patient stitching. It has been reinforced where it needed reinforcement. It has been patched where patching was required, and it's better for it, not despite the repairs, but because of them. You are like this quilt. You've been through years of use, years of service, years of showing up and doing what needed doing. You've worn thin in places. You've come apart at the seams. You've developed holes where the friction was too much, where the weight was too constant. And that's not failure, that's not weakness, that's life. That's what it looks like to be engaged with the world, to care about things, to love people, to try hard at things that matter. And just like this quilt, you are worth repairing. You are worth the time it takes to heal. You are worth the patient attention, the careful stitching, the gentle reinforcement. Your holes don't make you less valuable. They're just spaces where you can add new patches, new strength, new layers of resilience. You're not broken. You're not damaged beyond repair. You're in process. You're being tended to. You're being restored. The fire's warmth reaches your face, and you close your eyes for a moment, just feeling it, the weight of the quilt, the comfort of the chair, the safety of this room while the snow falls outside. This moment is enough. You are enough. The work you've done tonight on the quilt on yourself is enough. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be unmarked. You just have to keep showing up, keep doing the small repairs, keep believing you're worth the effort. And you are. You absolutely are. The quilt wraps around you like generations of care, like all the hands that have touched it and all the bodies it has warmed. You re-part of that lineage, now part of the chain of people who cared enough to preserve this thing, to keep it going, to believe it still had use and beauty left in it. Tomorrow the quilt will go back into the cedar chest, clean and repaired, ready for the next time it's needed. Tomorrow you'll return to your regular life with its demands and complications and challenges. But tonight, this moment, you're here. You're held. You're warm. You've done good work, and you're resting in the evidence of it. The snow keeps falling. The fire keeps glowing. The quilt keeps holding you. And somewhere deep inside, a seam that's been straining for too long finally feels secure again, stitched back together, ready to hold. If this story resonated with you, please consider showing your support with a like and subscribe to Deep Sleep Stories Hub for more quiet nights and restful journeys.